All right, we're looking at the Airlifter 5000 series for a 2022 F150 Ford. There's some of the parts that are all here, and I'll show you more of them as we proceed with this little exercise. Now I've measured all the wheel heights and everything from the ground to the top of the fenders on both ends of the truck, both sides. I'm going to do this in my yard. Got my homemade ramps that I built, so I don't have to be concerned about safety underneath. The old stamp metal ones there didn't seem to work very well. They didn't seem to be too safe. So we'll see how all this works. These are the two trailers I primarily pull with it. The flat deck, I'll put my tractor with a backhoe on it, and that'll settle the back end of the trailer pretty good. Motorcycle trailer, not so much, but it does bring the back end down. And I'll show you underneath the reasons why on the F150. And this is part of the issue, and it's not a big issue. I bought the truck for ride comfort. I didn't buy it specifically to pull trailer and everything, but it's got a single leaf. I could have added a leaf, but that would have bumped the back end of the truck up another couple inches. So that's why I opted for the airlift. So initially, I've got to take this bumper off, and then we'll start from there with getting all of the framework on and all of the stuff that goes on with this. I didn't know, and when I saw the pictures, that the fender liners would be an issue, but they're not. They don't even get close to any of this stuff. So we'll see. It should be a pretty straightforward deal. A lot of stuff out there for videos to do this. This is a do-it-yourself video. All right, I brought out all of the wrenches and sockets that I think I need, 10, 13, and 15, it's according to the book. But we'll see. Reading the book has got a pretty good set of instructions that come with it. So the first thing, we need to remove this and remove this. The two obvious first things to remove. And there's something over in here that we've got to pull a tab off of somehow and get this moved away. I'm not past that point yet where I don't know if we need to move it, but by the looks of the book and the looks of this clip right here has got to get pulled off, and then all this stuff pulled out of the way. And then they say I got to cut the end off of that clip. I don't know that I'm going to cut the end of it off. I may just bend it around out of the way. We'll see. It takes a pretty good size extension. I've only got about a 3 or 4 inch on here, and that's about all that I can get up in there. Well, I could get a lot more extension up in there. So the longer the better, the easier it will be. Right now I've run out of ratchet and run out of being able to hold the socket and everything else. So I should just go get a longer extension. But you know how it is when you're doing this stuff. By the time you crawl out from under here and then go in and get the long extension and all of that other stuff, you might just well leave it alone. So for this little 10 millimeter, I probably just use my little wrench here and get that done. And try not to tinker with it too much. Now the bottom of this whole truck has been undercoated. So everything has been put on with black fluid film. So it's not the most pristine undercarriage, but there's no rust under it either. So, and this has been through one winter. There's a little bit of rust showing here on the axle and everything, but later this summer, before we get to winter, I will undercoat it again using a couple of different products. One of them, though, will be that black fluid film. I just like it. my old 76 Chevy 3/4 ton pickup camper special, every time I changed the oil, I always sprayed the frame down. At 200,000 miles, you couldn't find any rust on it yet. So, you know, coating the bottom of these works. Okay, so when you read the book and they talk about that little tab, okay, there's this piece up on top here, okay, all of this just slides on and off of this, okay, and it slides to the outside of the truck. So it's not a huge complicated thing, but it is very stiff, very hard to pull. You'll have to work at it. Okay, this shows it a little bit better. Now, my inclination is not to cut it off, but to bend it around one way or the other. I'll have to look at that and decide a little bit more. But, you know, like I said, I don't like cutting things. That makes it kind of permanent, but we'll see. We'll see what that new mount looks like going on there. So on the right-hand side, or the passenger side, not comfortable left and right, I did go get a longer extension when I picked up a bunch of the tools and stuff. All right. There's your spring numbers and stuff on these. So I just get this out and be done. Just an FYI, you only need about a 6-inch extension because a 10-inch is too long. Okay, so with the instruction book comes a whole pile of things. I believe this is going to be the bracket replaces that other bracket that got that clip thing on it. I forgot what this one's got to do. Got to look back in the instructions, and I'll keep you posted as we go along. But these are the next 2 bolts we need, and that's these 2 black ones. They screw up in the holes where these bumper blocks just came out, or the axle blocks or spring blocks or whatever you want to call them, where they just came out. We got to take them up in and leave about, you know, 3/8 to 1/2 inch showing. So these go back up in those holes where the others were on both sides. And we want to leave, I don't know, 3/4 or 1/2 inch or something showing of them. 3/8 to 1/2 inch, I guess, is all we need. I've got plenty showing there. I'll thread it down with a ratchet here in a minute. And these are 15 millimeters. Okay, so the next 2 pieces to go on are the left and right. This one here, you can see it's got an R on it. The other one here has got a, where the hell are we at here? It's got an L on it. So left and right. And it's easy enough to tell they can't go on any way but how they're designed. Video doesn't show this very good, but it's got a bracket and they slide over that bolt and away they go here. I'll see if I can get that videoed here with one hand. So I'm going to take this right up through this puka. That would be a hole. And we're going to slip that over it like so and up against the side. And that's where she's going to sit. We'll bring that up so it's just barely snug. All right, so that's up in there. It's up in there snug. I used a ratcheting box end. That worked pretty good. You can use a regular open end or a regular box end, but the ratcheting one works a lot quicker, and that's what it looks like. Now that's just up there barely snug. As you know, everything's got to be torqued here when I get done. And the right one is on, and I'm going to take a look in the book here for just a minute and make sure that the next steps I do is where I need to be. Okay, as in the left side, I didn't pull the brake tab off of the right side. So got to pull these tabs that are attached to the spring perch, okay, from the left and right side. Okay, on the right hand side, they want to pull the brake line and whatever else out. I don't know why they need to have that brake line pulled out of there. I don't see a need for it. This cable up here though, however, does need to come out. And that just got a pinch lock fitting on it. So just pinch it with a pair of pliers and pick that up out of there. And it should be good. Okay, so this is loose and this brake line comes right out of that little clip really easy. So we'll see where we get to with that. And then I did bring a wrench out. I'm going to bend this tab back. I don't like cutting something if I don't need to cut it. So we'll bend it back, and if I got to end up cutting it, I'll cut it. But for right now, I'm going to bend it back out of the way. And that is pretty much what it looks like bent back out of the way. I just bent it back around to the back. I can't figure out a reason for that to be a problem, but we'll see as we move on. If it works out to be a problem, then we'll change it. Okay, this is what you get when you don't follow the directions. All right, as I bent this, I thought it'd be out of the way, but as you can see, this edge comes right down where this split line is. So right in here, I've got to cut that off so that that'll lay down flat on the axle there. So go get the tool. Okay, this is how it'll fit down in there. That little round tab at the bottom doesn't seem to bother it. It's sitting about where it wants to sit, and I am assuming that somewhere along the line all those other parts are going to come into play here somehow. Not quite certain yet, but this big heavy wire is a real pita to move around. So if you're going to do this, you want to keep in mind that it's going to take some mechanical skill, a couple of specialized tools. I got my cutter there. I think that's down where it belongs. If not, I'll probably use a hammer and a punch and beat that out of the way. But it's down there pretty close. So the next step is to measure. Yeah, it's down on the axle where it belongs. The next step is to measure the distance between the base and the top. And yeah, I got it up on ramps and it's probably compressed a little bit, but it ought to be close enough for the measurement. Now the book is saying anything from 6 3/4 to 7.5 inches, you need to use the spacer. Right now, mine is showing right at 6 inches. I've been out and measured the distance from the fender to the tires where I'd measured before, and I'm showing plenty of clearance. I'm still showing the gap on the springs that I normally show when it's parked on the level. So I'm going to make a stab at this that I do not need to use those two spacers. I don't know that I'd get 3/4 of an inch more out of this suspension. Like I said, I measured from the top of the fender to the tires, so I know what that measurement is. So I don't think I've compressed this any at all. And again, both sides are showing, you know, plenty of room, just like it would if it was sitting on the level with no weight on it. After looking at this real close, carefully, this little piece right here has got to come off. It's holding up the bottom of that bracket. Didn't look like it would bother, but apparently it's gonna. So we'll hack that off too. Now, one of the things you have to be really careful of is when you're cutting this part down here, I'm using a rotary grinder. Of course, it bounced, nicked a wire up in here. So I looked, sure as all get out, it cut the wire in two, so I had to splice that. Used a heat shrink connector and put it all back together. Hopefully every frickin' thing works there when I'm done with it. Now to install the two long bolts. Now they showed putting the airbags on and then trying to fit it all back in here, but I think I'm going to stuff the airbags up in there and then fit them on from there. But we've got to put the bolts in the front bracket for sure. I'll probably put the bolt in the back bracket and just get those started. And then I'll get the airbags in, and hopefully it'll work that way. If not, I'll let you know, and we'll do it the other way. Okay, so I used my high lift jack to lift the truck up, 3 or 4 inches. The airbags all slid in. Now the question is whether or not I can get all the bolts going with them slitting in there like that. But I didn't want to fight with it trying to get the airbag and all of this stuff over this clump of wires and stuff. That looked like an extreme PETA. So we'll see how that goes. But I've got everything lined up pretty much, bolt holes and everything. So I got to use the short bolts, and then up in the top I got to use the other ones. So we'll see how that goes. Well, it doesn't work very well with these up on this part to put these bottom bolts in. Now, it's the way I did it, and I got plenty. Yeah, I got tired of battling that up in there, trying to get them bolts in the top. So, drop the spare tire so I can get up above and kind of see down in and see what I'm doing. Of course, by the look at the spare tire, really doesn't hurt to have that dropped out of there. I'll wash that up and then re-oil it and everything so that doesn't rust either. Now what I'm talking about is these bolts up on top, they are a real frickin' PETA. I couldn't get my head up in there any other way. So with the spare tire out of here, you can see lots of room. I could let my jack down a little bit and that'd probably help some, but got the one started, so should be able to get the rest of them started. All right, the second top bolt is started now. So now I just got to look and see what I got to have for brackets and stuff down here on the bottom. I got to get this lined back up again down here. And I'm not sure where I got to move everything to, but everything is loose so I can wiggle it and move it and adjust it and do what I need to do with it. But this does have to come down here to get lined up to that hole. So anyway, that's how I did it. Right, wrong, good or bad. Okay, not quite sure where we all left off on all of this stuff, but there's that big funny kind of a C-clip looking thing that goes up and over this, and it fastens on here, and then it comes back out, and then this clips into it in the side. I don't know if you can see that real well there or not, but that's where that clip goes on top of that perch, and then the bracket catches it up in the front, and then that other little Z-shaped bracket fits right here onto this assembly and fastens all of this together. So it comes on and looks kind of like that. Right now it looks like I've got everything pretty much together. I've got the tension off of this. All I've got to do is start tightening everything up and put the U-bolts in yet. Haven't quite got that far. This piece here really gave me a headache trying to figure out how that goes on there. I'm not happy with the way this whole wire bundle sticks out. but it seems to be okay. The only issue I had is when I was cleaning this up here, I was using a rotary grinder, and I tapped that wire harness and caught one wire, so I ended up resplicing that. Other than that, that is the only issue I have had so far. When I get ready to hook up the air lines, I'm gonna bring this one over, across, and through, and then into this, and then I'm gonna lace the wire up along, or the hose, but I'm gonna put a T in here. I only want one air valve. I don't need two air valves, I don't believe. I just don't see a point of having two separate valves unless I'm gonna put a load leveler system on it and all that garbage, and I'm not doing that. This is just to take the load off the hitch and, you know, level up the truck. So this is where we are. These brackets are fastened on again. And again, like I said, I've got everything ready just to start tightening it up. I've got to put the U-bolts in yet. Okay, I've got everything in. Everything seems to be good. All I got to do now is go through and tighten everything down. I'll start with the pieces in the center here and work my way all the way around to get everything tight and route it around. What I did with this wire over here that come through is perched kind of high, but I didn't see a nice way to line it, so I took that bolt back out, routed it in back of it, and then I got a lot of wire ties to do. Still got to hook the air lines up. I'll get that. I'll go back to the tools. In between the 10, the 13, and the 15 millimeter metric, whatever you want to call it all, you're going to need 7/16 US 9/16. I ended up getting a socket out. You know, to get the big long things out, you're going to need a 6-inch extension with your 13 millimeter to get, you know, these bolts out. All of the stuff that goes back on is pretty much US. There's a couple of 13s, I think, that went on there with the self-tappers. But other than that, nothing out of the ordinary. This top bolt above the axle, it's kind of a PITA to tighten, but you can get it. What I found helps the most is having these ratcheting box ends. You know, not everybody's got them, but I do. So, you know, I used a lot of the ratcheting box end wrenches to tighten all this stuff up. I didn't use any air tools other than air tool to cut that bracket off right here that sticks out. You know, I tried to bend it out of the way, but that wasn't enough. So you can see down in here, if that focuses, you know, this is right tight to that bracket. It does fit, so not a concern there. Like I said, I'm not happy with the way this bracket here holds this wire way out, you know, almost a whole extra inch out that it doesn't need to be out. It could be a lot closer. It would be a lot better. I may change that, you know, at some point, but you can see the gap, and I just don't think it needs to be out that far. But it is what it is. Like I said, when I was up in there working on this and it was all up in that way, I did nick a line in here and caught a wire. Hopefully I got it fastened back together. I used a heat shrink butt connector, so it's, you know, butt connected back together and then heat shrunk. So hopefully I don't have any issues with ABS or whatever that went to. I assume it went to the ABS. But all of these brake lines, everything here, all fits back together pretty easy. Like I said, I didn't like this being stood way up, and I didn't see another way to do it. So I just laid it on top of that, and I've got to do some wire ties to get, you know, things fastened in. I want to make sure this stays more secure. I don't like the way that bounces. The airlines, I'm waiting on my T-fitting. I'm going to bring the airline out and make a loop or whatever, or just bring it out and bring it across through this bracket over to here, and then we'll get them connected up with a T, and then we'll run the airline all up over the top of all of this, all the way back, and then we'll butt it through this little hole right here. And then, you know, I've got my little air machine there that I use for airing up tires. I don't use the tire hose and air compressor anymore. I use a little Milwaukee M18 air pump, and I'll put some air in them and we'll see if they leak. But other than that, take your spare tire down, do yourself a favor so you got some room to sit in here. This was a real PETA getting up in here until I took the spare tire out. That will help your life if you're doing it like I'm doing it. You know, again, I'm on homemade ramps because these I feel very safe under. And, you know, I've got plenty of room to sit up. Actually, I'm sitting on my creeper right now, so life is pretty good under here. But all in all, I'm pretty satisfied with the way this went on. I don't see any big extreme concerns about the kit. I think it's, you know, pretty well thought out. So anyway, that's it. Now all I got to do is get the connectors on there, get the air hose on, and then squirt everything down with fluid film. Because, you know, I got a couple of spots here that I see, you know, I might have missed last fall there when I did this. And I'm going to get them coated up pretty good. Now, I will tell you that I am a mess from being underneath here, working on everything that's got fluid film on it. What a pain. All right, later. Okay, the airlines are run, and what I did is I put a couple of little oversheets there on this. I left a nice little loop, so I had plenty of loop there. Run it across, tied it to these transmission lines, come across. I had one of the old-fashioned T's, got the old ferrules and all of that stuff, so I fastened that in there, and then I run that up along the frame, up along those wires, and then I dropped it down through this little hole here in the back. Again, I put a couple of coatings on it to protect it, and fastened it there. So all in all, she's done. I haven't tested it for air leaks yet, but I'll get to that here in just a little bit. I'm gonna take a look at these wires, just or air hoses a little bit. Not quite happy with a couple of them the way they are, but I think they'll be all right. But I'm gonna run a couple more covers just to protect it. Now there, I can put the abrasion rub things on there. I had it up there, I guess, and then I put another one over in here on this and wire tied it all together. So it looks like I've got it pretty well done. Now to test it with some air, I guess. So go give her a go. There, she's down off the jacks there. It's sitting about 3/4 of an inch higher with 6 pounds of air in the bags. The book only wants 5 pounds minimum, so we'll run it at the 6 here and see what happens with it. I guess I probably ought to measure the front and see if how much the front's down. Okay, now to load test this and see how those airbags work. We're what, 15 7/8 inches at the bottom of the hitch. Pretty close to 16. Close enough for government work, right? Okay, now with the trailer hooked on it, we are down to 15 1/4 inches. So it dropped at 3/4 of an inch. See what that does for it. 15 1/4 inches. Okay, gonna load the tractor. Let's see how far it drops. Ten and a half. You can see that dropped the back end of the truck on the fender pretty much, and it really lifted the front of the truck. Okay, so when it lifts the front of the truck, you've got a couple of issues with braking. That changes the dynamic. So we're at 39, whereas normally we're at 37, I think, on the front of the truck, sitting on a dead level. Back of the truck on the fender, we were at 41. Here we are at 37. So from the empty truck to here, what, 4 inches. Okay, so let me go get my compressor and pump this thing up just a little bit and see what it does to level it out. Okay, also remember, there's still 5.5 or 6 pounds of air in those bags. And if I drop all that air out, that'll drop significantly more. I have the tractor a lot farther forward on the trailer than normal. Normally I'm back 2 feet or better, and the bucket will sit down inside the frame. So we're not down as far as it would be if I didn't have 5.5 pounds of air in them. Let's air this up. I use this Milwaukee air pump. I love it. Now my air pump is showing 18.5 PSI. I'm going to double check that with the tire gauge. Oh, the tire gauge vouches for it. Says this is 18 PSI now with all of that pressure and weight on it. So that's interesting. Okay, so now it's down to 16 with a couple of squirts of air off the pump and everything. Let's see what happens if we bump this up to 30 PSI. This will go up in increments of 5, but anyway. Okay, that brought it up to 11 1/4. Go up another 10 to 40. There's right at 11 3/8 or 11 3/4 rather. We'll take it up to 60. And you can see it coming up. Okay, so let's go see what it did to the front of the truck and back here. Yeah. Well, it didn't bring the front down any. It had to bring the back up. Well, the back is up to 38.5, so we got a little bit to go yet. There's 13 inches. Yep, still 13, even bouncing. Okay, so we've got a loaded weight on there. I put 80 pounds in the airbags. I like the way it's all sitting now. It's sitting as level as it needs to sit on the trailer. And remember, I put a lot of tongue weight on this. So I think everybody will see a big difference. And 80 pounds is well under what their limit is. They say 100 pounds for the air on these. I guess it'll be interesting to see what the air pressure does when I back the tractor off of the trailer. Okay, so we'll get that done and we'll check the air pressure and see what that is. All right, the empty weight pressure now dropped to 66, and it was 78 with a loaded weight. Let's see what the height is here. And we're right at 17 empty, so it doesn't seem to raise it any. See what the rest of it looks like here. There's 41. There's 37.5. So ride height, it didn't change it at all with the extra pressure. Okay, drop this back down to 5 psi. It dropped down to the 15-inch line. And to tell you the truth, I forgot where we started, so I gotta watch the video myself now. So all in all, that should end this video. You know, the load. I looked at the truck for sitting level and everything, and right now, okay, it looks like it's back to about where it originally was. I'll take a quick measurement, throw them on there just for the meanness of it. Okay, the back is at 39.5, so that's down just a little bit from where it was. And the front is at 37.5, so that's still up. So all of this is a static measurement. Now, if I went out and moved it around and everything, it would probably have leveled it out. But that's good enough for what I did, and I'm happy with where I'm at. So your choices on this stuff.